Oh yeah, Ryan.
Welcome to Tavern Talk, a Wheel of Time talk show. Full spoilers, everyone. Let me fix something. Hey, how's everyone doing? This is a very special show. Let's unmute everyone.
Nope.
All right, classic intro. All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are here to start our Forsaken series. Yes, that's right. We're going to do deep dives into the Forsaken. And
right. This is Tavern Talk, where every Sunday we have this discussion with our friend and actor, Jansen Lashley Haynes. This is where spoilers are abound, lips are loose,
yeah,
flying, rumors are spreading like bubonic rats.
Ooh, nice.
Jansen, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing good. It's a rainy California day, but it has been for the past few weeks. And, keeping our spirits up and having a good time out here.
How do those mountains look?
Anyway.
How majestic are those mountains right now?
The mountains are looking good. I can see them from my house, and they're white on top.
There you go.
White on top. Yeah. No, speaking of rain, I live in the northern part of California, and we had some hail. So, Case and I started running.
No.
Yeah, we had literal hail. We ran around like children, got our phones. I called Dan just to tell him it was hailing. And Dan's like, oh, cute.
I'm like, that must be adorable for you. I said, in knee-deep snow.
So amazing. All right, before we begin, I want to acknowledge our new Patreon members.
Yes.
So, first off, let's say...
Thank you, Diljeet. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you to all... and thank you to all of our Patreon members. You guys really do warm the Felton cockles of our hearts. You make us feel warm and cuddly inside. And more importantly, you encourage us to do what we love to do twice a week, each and every week of the year, pretty much. So thank you, guys. It means a lot.
It truly does. Brother Dan, how do you spell Felton?
Felton, F-E-L-T-Y-U-G-N.
Okay, nice. White. Felt young. All right, speaking of funny names, let's talk about Ishar Murad Shuain. How do you say that last name?
Shuain. But,
Shuain.
Yes.
How about we just call him Schwing?
He is also better known as Aginor, one of the 13 Forsaken from the Age of Legends. One of the strongest and what I believe one of the most essential characters for the Shadow to even exist the way they have for the past few millennia, actually. But if we're going to talk about Aginor or Ishar, we got to start back in the Age of Legends. And we got to start back, I would say, where he worked in the Column Dawn. He was, his name was Ishar Murad Shuain. So we can speculate that because he had three names, he was highly acclaimed in the era and in the time. He, from some of the POVs we know from the books, we know that he was very, very high standing in the Hall of Servants. He knew all of them, and he was very respected. And we can only surmise some of these things because so much has been lost from the Age of Legends.
When Aginor walked into the Hall of Servants, was it like Norm going to entering Cheers? Did they all go?
Probably like that, with more respect. I would think that.
Yeah,
I would think that he was more of like a Thomas Edison-esque kind of guy. who had a bunch of underlings working under him. I'm sure many young biologists and scientists wanted to work under Ishar, wanted to be trained by him, wanted to be, associated with him and to learn from him. He was a highly acclaimed individual, and thinking about what they would be doing, what would biologists be doing in the Age of Legends, knowing that you can use the one power to heal people, knowing that you could, do almost anything as a channeler. What kind of things would you do as a biologist? And it always comes back to one thing for me. It's create life. And I do believe that Ishar was one of the scientists who perfected the making of the nymph. He probably helped with the chora trees and other, biological things with plant life and things. And, this is one of my opinions. I believe that it was the making of the nymph, which was a construct that probably got him to start thinking about other things. Because if I can make plants alive, what can I do with other source material?
Are the nymphs? The nymphs were worms, right?
No, that was the Green Man.
What?
No,
Nim was the Green Man.
The nymph.
Oh, okay.
The Nim were the race of. That's what the Green Man was. He was
okay. My bad.
And each, we know from a few POVs, like the one in the Road to the Spear, that each community of singers that were mixed with Aiel and Ogier had a Nim, and they all helped make the plants better and the gardens bloom and make food for the populace so no one would be hungry and things like that. And, when we're talking about the Age of Legends, we're talking about a place that if you have studied everything and you've learned all there is to know, you start to get complacent and bored, and you start thinking of new things that you could possibly do. And this is
Jansen, that reminds me of the Jurassic Park quote, where the guy said, "It wasn't whether you could do it, it was whether you should have done it."
Yes, exactly. And I think that, Ishar started getting restless. He was obviously a brilliant man, and he started thinking along the lines of, what else could I make?
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to think of this whole phenomenon. Like, could someone's thirst for knowledge upend their humanity? And what is it like? Is that the logical extension of knowledge? It almost seems like in all aspects, the logical extension of knowledge ends in lethal.
Yeah.
Right? Like Oppenheimer in our age, right?
Exactly. Well, I think for Ishar, I think that the search for knowledge was a passion, not just something that he did for a living. It was his life. It was his passion. It was the only thing that he really truly cared about was the advancement of what he can find in work.
So and I love how Robert Jordan does this with the Age of Legends. It feels idyllic when Rand experiences it. Like there's cooperation abound. There's flying cars. It looked like everyone's just chilling, right? But underneath it, therein lies individuals and these certain people had a really hard time with it. So yeah, basically Ishar was running up to the end of knowledge. He's right? Like, what else is there to learn? They've advanced so far that they've created everything that a society would need to function amazingly, and yet he's just like, no, there has to be more. Yep. So then he just basically logically chose to be a Forsaken because only Shadowspawn would be allowed to do the research he wanted to do.
Right. Yeah. It was genetic research, right? Which we do now in safe environs, what he was doing was considered an aberration of sorts, but he was always just pushing things in that direction. And it makes me wonder just how awesome it is to have genetic splicing with the one power. Let's think about this, right? So we're taking specific little parts of a gene from a living human and replacing a part of an animal and creating a Trolloc.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there's also evidence that it was impossible for him to do it alone. There's evidence. There's evidence from Demon Dread when he talks about how Aginor could have possibly been one of the stronger Forsaken, but he really didn't do anything. He would have never even been a Forsaken if it wasn't for his talents in genetics. But when he was revived, the instruments and tools that he used were no longer available to him. And if that tells me that he probably used some kind of terangrial, possibly the same version of the ones that they used to make the Nim, and it tells me that he needed other people that made those kind of terangrial. Everybody couldn't use the one power the same way. And if he would have been able to make those, that's the first thing he would have started doing when he got back a new body. He wasn't able to do anything like that. All the other Forsaken who were resurrected went right back to the things that they were trying to do in the first place. He never really had a place because he couldn't start making new constructs.
Jansen, I'd like to talk about his resurrection. So his resurrection shows that the boar was not a metaphysical boundary or prison. It was a physical thing that he and Balthamon, I think, were right near the edge, right? So they aged. They aged while they were in the stasis.
Yes.
Because they were close to the edge. So this gives a really bizarre physics of what this boar is. And I guess the closer to the outside that you are, the
and that's why they popped out first.
Right, they popped out first, and they were all gross looking.
No, and not to even mention how Ishamael was like partially hidden and came back for like 40 years, every millennia, right? Like something like that. Yeah. Right. So that gets even crazier. What's that? What are the physics of that, right?
I think that has something to do with him using the true power extensively.
Right. But we learned this right in the first book. The Eye of the World is where besides in the Dreamland, Aginor is the first Forsaken that we see. And he is scary AF. He's drawn from the well. He's healing. He's looking younger. He's looking great. Yeah. And then next thing you know, we look over and he's all just burnt out husk. He couldn't handle it, so he just died off screen.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
He was, I believe he was about to, when he came out, he followed, he went straight to power. He followed MaTsDaGger with Balthamel. He wasn't looking for the Eye of the World. He was looking for Lews Therin. I mean, there was no evidence that he was actually looking for the Eye of the World. He tells them that he followed MaTsDaGger here. So that's the first thing that him and Balthamel did when they were resurrected, was they traveled to where the eye was. That's the best assessment I can think of. But
so is it like coincidence that they happen upon the E5?
I think it was. I think it was. I think the first thing that they were trying to do was get at the Dragon Reborn. Everybody was trying to get him or kill him or do something to him when they first came out, from Lanfear to everybody else. And I think that he even says it. His words verbatim were, "Why should I share this with you?" So he was either sent to capture him, sent to turn him, or sent to kill him. But he even said, "The Great Lord will have you either dead or alive. Why should I keep you alive to share power with you?"
Right.
So he knew who he was looking for, and He also said we found who we were looking for now.
Mhm.
So he was looking for Rand and stumbled upon the eye.
Which is pretty rad that we don't. It's not until book 6, I believe, Lord of Chaos, that we hear the term nameless, and yet it seems, and we hear this in regard to the Forsaken. I think it's Semiraj, who is wary of Rand because she's like, oh, he's going to be nameless. Darkland's going to take it. And I'm reading this now that Aginor is feeling the same way. He's like, why am I going to, we're all compete for nameless and you are an option. So why should I keep you around?
Yeah.
So do you think they arrived at the eye because of their need?
I think no, not because of their need. I think because their orders from the Great Lord.
No. I'm saying like they found. Remember, like you have to like can't find the eye until you need it, right? Like something like that.
It's
like,
a floating concept. Yeah.
Do you think? Yeah. Is it that their need to find Rand like allowed them to find the eye of the world?
No, I think Matt's dagger was a honing beacon.
Yeah, I think Jansen's right.
Yeah, I think Matt's dagger was a homing beacon, and that's how they found him.
I think I'm right.
Possibly. But there is evidence for both, and there's direct evidence from Aginor's mouth saying we followed him because of him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Damn it.
Yeah.
So we don't. We know a lot about what Aginor did, probably more than a lot of the Forsaken, as far as what their end result was in this current world. So Aginor created the Dragon Spawn, as we mentioned, or Shadow Spawn rather.
Yes.
So that includes Drakkar. That includes Trollocs. That includes the genetic misfits called Myrddraal. That includes those worms. That includes golems.
So the worms were actually called Jamara first.
Jamara,
and there's we have a POV from Semirhage that says that the only reason he created the Jamara was to see how powerful and crazy of a monster he could actually make.
Right, how fucked up he can get.
Yeah. And so he made this, and we also know that he didn't actually make the Myrddraal. The Myrddraal were an offshoot of the Trollocs. And they even fascinated him because apparently he experimented on Myrddraal lots and lots of times, along with Semirhage as well. And he still couldn't figure out exactly how they had the powers that they had.
Yeah, he couldn't figure out how they could shift from one shadow and pop up a shadow over there. He's like, how do you do it? He tortured them. They're like, I don't know. It's like, how do you close your hand? It just happens.
Now, that being said, when you're talking about a guy who can not only torture like spades, the creatures that instill fear in people, what kind of guy was Aginor? What kind of guy was this guy? He was ice cold, as far as I can say. He had no care about feelings. He wasn't. The only thing that the books even say that scared him was Ishmael. In fact, Ishmael terrified him, to be honest. And I think that was a drawback for him because besides Ishmael and Luce Theron, he was one of the strongest channelers of the entire age.
Yep. Yeah, in the book of Bad Art, it says he is the second most powerful man.
So
right.
I mean, this is not, but with a very distinct lack of ambition. All he cared about were his constructs. I think he didn't care about ruling the world. The only time I ever hear about him talking about ruling the world is right before he dies.
Yeah.
I
would say he is ambitious in that he's creating all sorts of. He's ambitious in his field, but has no concern about any of this politics or any of that shit. He just wants to make life. You're right. He's creating new species, guys, which is something that I mean, it's not even just resurrecting things. He's creating things, and then every once in a while, so Trollocs, it said breed at an extraordinary rate. I wonder how many he actually
Hubba.
created until they just started breeding. But then a Myrddraal pops out, right? And he's like, wow, science. I got to study this thing.
Yeah, what is
It's
this?
weird.
Mm-mm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a Myrddraal is a part of a Drakkar.
That's possible. Now, there is one other shadow spawn creature that is talked about extensively through the books from the very beginning to the end that they don't give him credit for, and those are the Darkhounds.
Darkhounds.
Uh-huh. Oh,
So-
really?
That's why I
Yep.
have to believe, well, we already know that there were more than 13 Forsaken back in the Age of Legends. I have to think that Aginor had companions. He
like,
had
like a
people
like a
he worked-
team he worked
Yeah,
with.
something like a team of doctors in white suits who you did not want to see coming to the door. You know, like,
Yeah.
Right.
the book also tells us that with his experimentation on humans, Aginor was responsible for the deaths of between 35 and 50 million people, without a care in the world. It's said that he, because of him within his experiments, now one man, he had 10,000. It says that 10,000 people died almost daily due to his experiments. I don't think one guy could do all that.
Yeah, just like the time it takes alone to chop off a head, right?
You have to have like an entire like city of henchmen and factories that Lord Aginor says do this, let's go do it. You know, he would have to have people behind him. So there were.
Well, we see in the beginning of Lord of Chaos, which we are discussing in the LeafCast every Tuesday, the making of the Trakandars, right?
Yes.
With those huge stone people who come out, they're alive but not alive, and they're just like taking babies and women and right. So is that right? Like, so do you need to make any of these things? Was there a human sacrifice like in that? So okay, here's my question: why do you need a human to make a Trakandar blade? And do you need humans to make all the other ones, or is he just researching on the humans? And you know what I mean? Like, why are all these people dying, I guess, by his hands? Why 50 million?
Well, I think he needed the stock that he used, they said he needed human stock and animal stock to create them. So he had them all jumbled up. But here's the thing, when we were talking about before, I really truly believe that he needed an Terangriel of some sort to actually make it work. So
do you think there's like a 1-to-1 relation though to like the number of dark being, like whatever he's making, to the humans dying? Is that like, is it like?
That's possible, unless one person with usually animals have a litter of kids, so like maybe he used that with the Trollocs. It also stated that the Trolloc females, the female Trollocs, wanted to be pregnant. They felt
Yummy.
normal and right being pregnant.
Hubba. They're down to clown, right, Ryan?
Yeah, so there was just mass breeding of, orgy Trollocs, just mass breeding all the time.
Amazing.
And
he also made the golem.
he made the golem, but he was smart enough to only make 6 of those. And he made 3 female and 3 male golems.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Dan, look at this guy. Look at this guy. Wait. Why are you saying he's smart enough to only make 6 though? So do you think the golem are the most powerful of the things he's created?
I think that they are the most dangerous of the things that he created. And because...
Oh, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
Yeah, I think they're the most dangerous because I think, if you put, Jamara up against a golem, who wins? Does the golem... do they fight until the golem runs out? Does golem get turned to pieces? What happens? But I think they're the most dangerous because they don't feel pain. They cannot be channeled at, and
Mm-hmm.
they're strong enough to rip someone's throat out.
Yeah, I think a golem could just slide literally inside of the Jamara and just start like cutting him from the inside out.
Maybe, yeah. It's probably, I mean, very dangerous creature. But one thing that we don't know is we don't know if Aginor already knew about any weaknesses that they had because he made them. You know, there might have been a golem turn off switch that he had. You know, you never know.
Mm-hmm.
We do know that the fox Terrio hurt the golem to the point where it hurt so bad he had to run away.
Yeah.
And we know that it continued to hurt after he got hurt by it.
Uh-huh.
We know from the golem's point of view that he even said the mark on his face burned like it was a coal on his, like a hot coal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we know that he could be hurt very badly from that.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that's literally that's like, I mean, like that's like if Superman had that's as if kryptonite. There's only like one bar of kryptonite in the entire universe, right? Because like that's a golem. Like, there's only one Fox medallion, and until they good point. Yes, until they replicated.
And we also don't know. Is it possible that Katsuin's jewelry could have hurt the golem, or Nynaeve's jewelry could have hurt the golem, because they both had Terangriel that could stop channelers. So
interesting.
You know, so it's very possible that they could have also hurt the golem as well.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that can hurt a golem that we know of is the fox head medallion.
I thought you were gonna say is a good golem.
Is
that's what
the only thing that'll take out a bad golem is a good golem.
Is a bad golem. They here's some attributes of the golem just to fill everyone in. They're immune to the one power.
Immune.
Most weapons don't hurt them.
Most weapons.
They can detect a channeler at 50 paces, and they can feel someone channeling from several miles away. They feast on fresh blood, and if their prey is a channeler, they receive a sense of euphoria. And they're resistant to harm. Most things don't hurt.
That's why I think, Trollocs were the blending of human stock and animal stock. I believe that the golem was a blending of human stock and Terangriel stock.
Ooh, interesting.
Wait, Terangriel. Hold on, Terangriel DNA?
I think that's how they made the golem, that they had to somehow infuse. He is a walking Terangriel, if you think about it.
That is fascinating. Hey, let's take as we all like ponder that amazing concept, let's take a moment to talk about a fundraiser that we have started for our very dear friend Dana Liu.
Absolutely. Good idea.
So as you see sprawling across the bottom of the screen, and we will keep it up for the entirety of the show, Dana Liu needs our help. She had a huge storm where she lives and lost some of her house. Got a roof taken off.
Man, this is God. This is an act of God. It's a natural disaster.
Yeah, so we are reaching out to everyone to see who can help. If you have a little bit, go over to the fundraiser and support our dearest friend, Dana Liu. And so this is live, and we're going to be keeping this up until next Tuesday, where the fundraising event will start. We're going to have TWACast and LeafCast combining forces to raise money for Dana Liu. So give, and it always gives back in the end.
Yeah,
like Taco Bell.
Awesome.
No, seriously. I mean, it's someone put it well in the thing, saying that when they had first started, it was in fact, I'll just read it. It was Tom from Takaranriad. And he says, Zul, when I felt like Takaranriad was shouting into the void, you made me feel like we weren't alone out there and help encourage us to keep going. You're the best. And yes, that's exactly how she felt with us too. Like we felt embraced when we first came in by Zul, and through Zul, she introduced us. She showed us around the party. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, so let's continue the discussion. DKmoon says the Golem were too dangerous for management, seeing as the management is all channelers. That's a very good point.
Yeah, great point.
Very good point.
Very, very good point.
I mean, yeah, so we're talking, we don't want a Dr. Frankenstein situation. And I see a lot of parallels between the story of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah, completely. The Frankenstein's mom, Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah,
but that being said, him as Dr. Frankenstein, imagine how he felt when all of his tools were stripped away. Everything that made him important to the Shadow, with the exception of him being powerful, was gone.
Right.
And, when he died, which is why I really truly believe that his resurrection, there's a lot that you can say into this. He got resurrected at the same time as Balthamel, as Osengar and Erengar. Now, the Great Lord of the Dark is always one who loves to name names and give people names for different meanings and different reasons. Now, they're like Sindane, like there's so many, and they're all something that's very serious, not funny to the Great Lord, but they give them to them so they understand their place in the world. Now, when you have a name like Osengar and Erengar, what those two devices were in the Age of Lessons were dueling knives that started to appear around the collapse. And they were both slathered in poison, and usually both participants in the duel died because of that poison. Now, with the Great Lord of the Dark resurrecting Balthamel and Aginor and naming them Osengar and Erengar, he's telling them that you're expendable, that you're probably going to die anyway. Who cares? At least I made you alive. Do what I say. You have a very, very short line.
Jansen, they're also on probation.
Yes.
They can only use the power if it's granted to them, and they don't know when that's going to happen.
Yes. And imagine this, too. He comes back to life and sees one of his pseudo-constructs, one of these Madril, that looks different than anyone he's ever seen. And this is a man who's studied Madril, hundreds of them, taken them apart, dissected them. And he has just come in front of one that he's never seen before. He has no idea what this is. And it has taken away his powers. So he must have felt so small when he came back to life.
Well, it must have been humiliating because he even thought, I ostensibly created you, motherfucker. Why are you giving me lip? But he also notices that the spikes are nowhere near Shadowharan's head. That this is
not him. That wasn't him. That was Demon Dread.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
That was Demon Dread.
Oh, that's right. He walked in and Shadowharan was there, and he's like, "All right, you can leave." And he's like,
"Yeah, he walked. Yeah, when they were walking down."
So I forgot about that point that they can only use the power. So when it's granted. So when Halima is giving Eggy her headaches, what is that like?
Well, no, when they got put out in the world, they were allowed to use their powers again. But the first thing that he told them is, you will not use your powers until I tell you. But when he let them out into the world,
I thought it was just like I thought he was there. It was like an active shield on them just in that moment. And he
I read it that way too.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Okay.
That's how I read it. And so going back to Demon Dread.
What's happening? What is that picture, Dan?
It's me with a haircut. I don't know. I think it's Joe.
That's okay. Jesus. All right. Well, he definitely got an upgrade from Skeletor to like passable.
Yeah, he was passable. He they talk about
like a Texas 6.
We're not 100% sure how old Aginor was when he was trapped in the boar, because most of his aging was done because he was so close to the outside world. We know that he was tall, almost as tall as Luce Theron. And he was a big man. He was a big man, and he was a proud man. He was very smart, proud, intelligent. He had his third name. This was a guy that you probably wanted to be around if you were in the science world and walked in those in the show in the Godan Call, whatever the research center. You would definitely want to know who this guy was. But when he died, and got his, I guess you could say, his third actual name, Corlin, I guess fourth now, because he was under the disguise of a man named Corlin Deshiva.
The Babbler.
The Babbler, and one that I believe if Rand wasn't so, occupied with so many other people and so many other things going on, he would have figured it out that he was a Forsaken. There's many different things that happen with Corlin Deshiva throughout the books that you're like, come on, man, how can you not see that this is a guy that this is Forsaken? He actually used weaves that Rand had never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
He saw things that Rand couldn't see, as far as when Elaine and the Sea Folk with Nynaeve used the Bowl of the Winds for the first time. There was crackling Sidene and Sidar all through the air and everything, and things were acting weird around it. And Rand, for some reason, couldn't see it. But Deshiva finally got him to look closer and said, "Can't you see this, man? This isn't supposed to be happening." And there were times when, the power was going the wrong way, and Deshiva was like, "That's impossible." He was very pedantic, and he used to speak, especially to the other Forsaken, as a professor would speak to his students. So he was almost like, he was like an evil Elder Hammond in a weird way.
Well, Jansen, and to your point there, Rand even tells Tame right off the bat, hey, if anyone starts acting weird, if they learn fast, if there's something like that, you got to let me know. And Rand recognizes that Deshiva is leveled up, but Rand is also humble in knowing that he doesn't know shit. He's like, I'm the dragon and I still don't know things. Tame had to show me how to test to see how people can even channel, so he is trying to be open-minded, but at the same time, he foreshadowed this to Tame, saying, watch out for dudes who come in here that seem super powerful or that seem to learn real fast or something like that. You got to let me know.
Do you think Tame knew that Deshiva was actually Isengard?
I read that in my research, it said that he just thought he was a powerful dark friend.
That's okay.
Okay, so yeah, I would say that, powerful dark friend. Yeah, I don't know if he knew that it was a Forsaken, but he had to have known that they were on the same side.
Because the Forsaken at least knew that Isengard was back in there because he had meetings with them. And so, they knew he was one. He was one. But here's the thing I'm thinking about with Deshiva. He was giving orders to the other Ashen during the attack on the palace in Carrion against Rand. He was giving them orders.
Was it Stockholm syndrome?
I don't know. But
was he just playing his role well, or what?
Well, that's the thing I'm wondering. So Tame might not have known, but the other Dark Friends, either they thought him high up enough to give them orders, or they were following one of the Forsaken. We know that Demon Dread was giving some of the Ashemen orders, but we don't know the extent of what Corlin Deshiva was doing. And this is one of the things why I always talk about, I'm not saying he was misused in the books, but for him to be as powerful as he was in the Age of Legends, as far as the things he did, I actually think he was somewhat misused in the New Age. And that's interesting because the Dark One, he doesn't misuse things. We have lots of proof that he keeps things he needs and waits for to use them when when they're needed. So either the Dark One was low, he had slim pickings, I guess, because there were only 13 people left, and at this time, by the time he came back, there were less because some people had already been taken out by Balefire. So the Dark One didn't have too many tools to use with the power of a Corlin Deshiva. So I guess he had to use him, and it was, kind of the Dark One screwed himself using him, I think. Deshiva was kind of a bumbling idiot at the end.
Yeah, and at one point, like, Rand gets injured, and he, like, appears like he seriously is concerned about him. And so
I was going to talk about that. That's true. But I believe, we have a lot of evidence that the Dark One, including Moradin himself, gave explicit orders not to hurt Rand. So I think that,
they're like, they don't want to be misidentified at a crime scene, basically.
Basically, but I think it's because the Dark One, ultimately, everybody wanted something in the Wheel of Time, everybody, including the Dark One, and I believe that the Dark One wanted Rand more than anything, wants the dragon to turn to his side.
Correct. And that's a big part of the meeting that Samael has with Semiraj, where he is like, yes, he had heard from Demodred several times that in the past, the dragon actually did turn over to the Dark One's side. And so that's where that nameless aspect comes back in, where people are trying to maneuver, and there's this new upstart that may or may not be the destroyer of their deal, or may not join their side and be the Dark One's right hand man. And so the as of Fires of as of Fires of Heaven, as of the prologue of Lord of Chaos, Demodred had heard, let the Lord of Chaos rule. Do not hurt this man. Spread the word. Do not kill him. Let the Lord of Chaos rule. So that's why Samael was like, but if he attacks Ilion and dies in the war, this isn't necessarily my fault. And Semiraj is like, yeah, maybe I can kill Rand and just blame it on Samael. Because the Dark One has issued these orders. Do not kill this man. I don't think the orders were in part when Aginor and Balthamol got out. I think that then it was all hands for themselves. And in fact, the Dark French Social, it was suggested that maybe there was a price put on the 3 boys. But as of Lord of Chaos, there is that has all been rescinded. The Dark One does not want to kill Rand anymore. The Forsaken still do, but the Dark One does not, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. We also, we see through the entire Eye of the World, and even all the way into the end of the Great Hunt, that Balsamon is still trying to get Rand to join him, to kneel to him at least, and to accept the Great Lord. Until he gets so frustrated, he says, "Fine, die," But I think that. And there was one other thing that we were talking about. I missed it, but it's about Aginor and the Great. Okay, yeah, it was. He was one of. He's the one who told Jer Grady, who led Jer Grady on the path to healing. He was
Aginor did?
Yes. Deshiva. He was the one who started talking to him in Damar Flynn's POV. He talks about how Deshiva hinted me towards this, asked me what started getting me thinking about this and this. So I think Deshiva knew how to. I think he knew how. And I think he passed it on to Flynn so he wouldn't get busted of knowing something that no one else knew. So I think that, I do believe, and he confronted Catswin and all the other Aes Sedai when Rand was dying from Fane's dagger, and refused to let him die. So there's more evidence that the Great Lord wanted Rand alive. And this is even before the incident with him and Moradin, that their Bellfire crossed, because I do truly believe that one of the reasons why Moradin wanted to keep him alive was because once their Balefires touched, I believe they started experiencing each other's pains and, emotions, and didn't want to get hurt either. When his hand got taken away, I think he was so mad because of the pain, and he wanted to punish her, I think he wanted to punish her for that. And I think that, this is what I wanted to talk about. So, Aginor being who he was, we have to believe that he was extremely intelligent, right? And I would believe that he was more intelligent than some of the other Forsaken.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah. And
so
well, he's the second most strongest channeler, and he's like an Einstein
he's a
times
biologist
10.
who does genetic testing. Yeah.
So it's so interesting to me that he would want such a lower position when he came back, and he didn't strive to get more. I think that he did have lustful things. He did think he wanted power, but not for the reason like we said, like for other Forsaken. He wanted power because he said, look at all that power coming out of Kalimdor, what he could do with that. That's what he said to himself. So all he thought about was researching what powerful things could I create with this power.
Well, and to your point, Jansen, so Aginor himself was, all right, this is a crude reference, but let's say a heroin guy who's been on heroin for a couple years goes into jail and does 21 days and then comes out, and then there's a big pool of heroin and he just freaking OD'd and died. He used to be able to handle that much, but his tolerance went down, and boy, he just
happened to Jerry Garcia.
Yeah.
So
it's
it is a crude reference, but that's how I see it. I don't know.
Yeah, I get it. And then there's the fact that he didn't have his apparent tools that Demon Dread talks about, that he had, and I always wonder what were those things.
Yeah, what were these tools? Implements, I think they referred to them.
Implements. He couldn't be made anymore. And you think about if he would have found a stasis box, he might have found some of these things. If he would have gotten access to the White Tower or to Tyr or even to Roidion, he might have found some of these things.
Roidion, I think he would walk around and go, there's my table.
Exactly.
There's my scalpel.
Exactly. There's so many tiny things that I think were missed in some of the book text that they could have expanded on, I have a ton of them when it comes to Grendel.
Yeah,
we'll get to her, but
but it's crazy how it's written. You piece it together like a patchwork quilt, and then or like a jigsaw puzzle, because everything's just like little drebs and drabbles of information.
Yeah.
Right, fellas, is this correct? I remember reading that Aginor had no talent for battle, but I don't remember healing.
Well, here's the thing. Even if he didn't have talent for healing, this guy was a man with a lot of knowledge.
Yeah. So DKmoon follows it up, but he said he could show someone some hints.
Yes,
so,
exactly. Yeah. So that's what I think he did. I think you're right on, DKmoon. I think you're absolutely right about that, and I think that's how it happened.
Beam me up, Scotty.
That's right.
Did you just get paged? That sounds like a 1990s pager.
That was my director. Anybody in the industry who calls me, that's the phone That's what it sounds like.
That's the bad. Yeah, you like best
Nice.
look. Yeah, nice.
It's like, oh, that's work. I know.
Well, let's spread the word. We are going early because you are you're filming stuff today, right? So,
Correct.
thanks to everyone who adjusted their schedule to come join us. We appreciate you, and we hope you're having a great Sunday.
Yes.
Jansen, you grind. That's so amazing.
Yeah, you're a hustle, man. I love
Like
your hustle.
if I had an acting gig, I'd be like, okay, everyone, I need 3 hours to quietly, like nervously pace
need
around the
to take a
house.
nap.
I need a yeah.
I gotta work later, babe. I gotta nap. Not Jansen.
Yeah. Gotta keep going. I've got a wife who works her ass off and is going 26 hours a day. So, she's one of my inspirations, and I like to be, like they say in Saldea, a lioness wants to be with a lion. So I got to go balls out.
Let's go, Mufasa.
Simba,
That's so
all
sick. I
this
love
is yours. Look to the skies.
So Aginor, let's talk a tiny bit more about what he created. I'm a big fan of the Jakar. I was a big fan of Jakar since I was a sophomore in high school, and drenched myself in that shit.
I think
Jakar Noir.
Jakar Noir.
I like, he made more than that. I like the Zumara. They're interesting to me because they're a totally different kind of like zombie-esque, human-esque thing that just serves people and have weird mental powers to know what you're thinking at the moment. And I believe that there are 36 of them left. Ishmael had them all from a stasis box, and he liked to use those
little box.
anything else. He trusted them more than anything.
I like the idea of him just popping them in a little unbreakable Rubik's Cube that maybe on the bottom of the ocean, maybe under a mountain. Who knows where these stasis boxes went?
Now, that being said about stasis boxes, do you think a human could have put himself in one?
Matt? No.
I mean, if, the Golem survived in one.
I mean, I've been to Cirque du Soleil.
That's a good point.
I think he could do it.
So you never know. I mean, that could, you never know. You never know if that could have happened, because there was also a game that one of the Forsaken, I believe it was Samael, liked to play, where there were constructs that used to be human that it was illegal to actually own players because they were actually human and they died. So, or pieces, I guess, pieces to the board. So I'd like to figure out about that too, because that was another construct. So yeah, they made a lot of different things during the Age of Legends, and we also know that they made more than just Korra trees. So I would think that back in the Age of Legends that Aginor was actually working on all kinds of things like that.
Especially if he was associated with the Nim, who are the avatars of growth, more or less.
Yeah.
I mean, when it died, it became a tree.
It did. It became a tree. And it, I have to think also that might be where how they started perfecting working and kind of making living things ter'angreal as well. Because wherever the Nim walked, sprouts were right under his feet when he came back. He had power. And from something like that was a construct, the power put in him had to come from the one power. So he was kind of a walking ter'angreal himself.
Well, let me ask you, Jansen, because we have the example of a Nim, are shadow spawn a product of nature or nurture? So would the Nim have been evil had they grown up in Thakandar? On the converse, would a golem or a gray man be just a fine being if they had grown up in the Two Rivers?
Well,
or is
there's
this
different-
evil inherited?
Well, a gray man, evil from the beginning, because that's when someone gives
They
their
chose.
Okay, a gray man's a bad example. Let's
Yeah,
say Drakkar.
I think a Drakkar. Drakkar, I don't know. I do know that Trollocs are inherently want to kill. That's what they want to do.
Because of their culture or because of their DNA, though? I guess I'm
Well,
saying.
I think it has to
Let's say
do-
there was an orphan
got
found
inside my
orphan.
DNA.
Hold on, orphan Trolloc found on the slopes of Dragon Mountain. Tamal Thor said, "Oh, you know what, little fella, I'm gonna take you home." Picks it up.
Okay.
He's like, "Rah, rah." He's like, but he gives him milk and stuff. Teaches them how to farm.
Well,
grow
here's
tobacco.
the thing. I think that can be answered with one or two different things. Did Aginor use the one power to make these creatures, or did he use the true power to make these creatures? They were all given little bits of it back in the Age of Legends, and I believe that anything that was made with the true power was inherently going to be corrupted no matter what. So we have to consider that. If he made them with the Dark One's touch, they were going to be evil.
Well, let me rephrase this question then. Why are the Nim different?
Because I believe the Nim might have been made with the one power.
Okay.
And as far as nature goes, remember the wheel isn't evil or bad, it just exists. So we do know that it is a kind of contradiction to say this, but the Dark One is also part of nature. Moraine explained this a little bit to Rand when he said he wanted to kill the Dark One. He's just as much as a force of nature as everything else. And I think the big thing, the mistake we make and that they make in the books are that the Dark One is equal to the Creator. I don't believe the Dark One's equal to the Creator.
Okay, this is a good. All right, this is probably another show that we can entirely delve
absolutely.
in. But
Yeah.
our first time reader is convinced that the Dark One is a demigod. The Creator is perhaps a demigod, but is more powerful than the Dark One. The fact that the Forsaken can go and visit the Dark One and have him talk it does not necessarily, and the Dark One is not omnipotent. He does not know. He's like, what's going on in the world?
That's true. He does not know everything.
I see the Dark One like the Eye of Sauron.
What's over there?
It has it has a limited POV, and people who and my theory is that when you say the Dark One's name, that's like calling like attention to the Eye of Sauron, and he turns and then he either curses you, or if you're like a dark friend, he gives you like sometimes a little boost of power, but like he's not all knowing in any way.
Yeah, he's not. And he needs henchmen to do his bidding.
So how is that? Well, and so on some level, you could that could raise the argument. Oh yeah, again, another show. Damn it.
Yeah. No, but I love this topic. I love thinking about the bigger picture. And is there even a creator, or is it the pattern itself? Is it the wheel? What is the overarching thing? Does the creator control the wheel? Did the creator make the wheel, or the wheel? Did man create the creator? Yeah. Anyways.
So, speaking about creation, MrHowley are psychically connected to what, like 100 Trollocs, 50 Trollocs?
Only if they put them under their spell.
Oh, okay. So that I was going to say is that I was hoping we were going to say that it is because they are genetically like variants of Trolloc breeding that happen spontaneously, that they are like genetically linked to like the pool of genetics that created them, and that maybe like they're like little brothers and sisters. Or
I think the Trollocs going by their, temperament, would despise the fact that they came from Trollocs, the Madro. I think they would despise it. I think that's probably why they, whip Trollocs, force them into their submission, because they probably hate the fact that they came from them.
Right, and I think that psychic link that they're able to form with their fist or whatever doesn't have anything to do with them being siblings or whatnot. I love that idea, but I don't think it is.
Yeah, I like it too, but I don't think it is. And
that's a good one.
We never see we never see a female Myrddraal either.
Fady Potter.
Yeah.
We never see. I'm sorry, Jansen. Go ahead.
We never see a female Fade.
That's a good point. But we do see that Fades like to fuck.
Yeah. Well, they like to rape and beat the shit out of women. What they like to do. And I believe.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Gross.
Yeah.
I believe that's what happened to Masana.
What do you think that there's ever been a female Fade?
I don't know. If there was, they probably died very quickly. They were all pretty much born to look the exact same, except for Shadar Heron. And I think that they're the poisonous refuse of the Trolloc drawbacks. And I think that and that's the reason why I think the true power was used.
All right. Well, Numan Garden's on my side. He said the genetic pool might enable the link because we see no evidence of them linked to any other shadow spawn besides Trollocs. But you think it's like some sort of act of the one power or compulsion?
Yeah, but we also know that Drakkar can communicate with Fades. They can
through sign language.
Well, we know
pantomime.
Well, Moraine told the youths when they were almost in Barrelon that he needs to look and then check back with the module to tell him where we're at.
Well, yeah, they are used as reconnaissance. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they say that on the way to Barrelon, so we know that they can. We know that the wolves and the Drakkar can communicate with higher ups. We know that. So believe.
All right, guys, let's play a fun little game. Let's rank the shadow spawn.
Let's rank Aginor's children.
Lowest to highest. So lowest has got to be Trollocs, right? There's so many of them.
I would say the lowest, if we're really going to be serious about every single shadow spawn character.
Oh, okay, like the Forgers?
No, not even the Forgers. The shadow spawn that runs wild in the dark in the waste. I mean, not in the waste, in the blight. They talk about that a few times, and they say that those creatures only listen to the Great Lord himself and no one else. So even Moradin had to have guards up at his castle against them.
All right, so all right, so they're at the very top then.
The lowest.
We'll go top to down then.
Yeah. So then we have the Forgers. And I would actually say that the Trollocs are weaker than the Forgers.
I would put the Trollocs down at the very bottom, man.
Yeah,
I was trying to go bottom up. So
yeah, we're going bottom up. I'm just talking about the random creatures in the blight, then Trollocs, then I would say the Forgers are probably right there.
Uh-huh.
As far as
and then Greymen?
Greymen, I would have to put Greymen below the Forgers too.
Yeah,
a Forger would kick the shit out of a Greyman.
So what a
Trollocs. So we're talking like 1v1 like cage match.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. Or who's the strongest?
Or just who makes the most impact in the world, I guess.
No. Those are two different lists.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so let's specify 1v1 cage match or impact.
Cage match. I'll do cage match. It's fine.
Let's do cage match. Yeah.
So and then above obviously the Greymen, and then you have. I mean, the Forgers are pretty hard to beat up.
But they just die when you take them out of Thakandar.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
try.
you just pull them away.
You do anything, they just turn to dust. So
And if
they
you're a
gotta go.
channeler, they're dust anyway. So yeah.
All right, so Trollocs or Dark Hounds? So Dark Hounds is above Trollocs, I would say.
I would definitely say that.
Wait. Okay. But he didn't make the Dark Hounds, isn't that right?
We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Okay. Did he make any of those damn creatures in Shanchan that are scary?
Like
Or
the
those
Tarakan
just-
and stuff, the
Yeah, all that
Grom.
shit.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think those are natural constructs or natural life.
Are they bred by the Shanchan to be like that?
Maybe. And and there's also one other shadow spawn basically creature out there that was not made by Aginor as well, and that's Slayer.
Hmm.
Slayer
Oh,
wasn't
see, that's it. So, all right. So I wouldn't say that that's Dragon Spawn is at all.
Yeah.
I would consider Slayer to be kind of outside of the pattern a little bit.
Yeah,
much like
he's
Bane.
kind of like the Dark One's own construct.
That's
He's because the Dark One single-handedly chose him and Luke out to make them.
Interesting.
So
Yeah,
that's a
okay.
different type of, so Aginor had literally nothing to do with the creation of Slayer, who is a very powerful shadow creature as well, in his own right, but ended up.
Oh yeah.
I mean, well, he's not up at the top. He's very, very easily killed, but not.
Only because he met his equal in the dream world, but he was hunting wolves in the wolf dream, so he was very powerful in that realm.
Yeah, in the wolf dream, he's powerful, but if you can catch him outside, if you can catch him outside of the wolf dream, he's pretty much as susceptible as anybody.
Ooh.
Like if the thing about him though is he can enter the dream at any time he wants. So that's why he can. That's very powerful.
And he's listed in prophecy, which is rare.
More so than parent. So that's weird.
Yeah. Dark prophecy for sure for the win. Village actually pop this back up to here. Village Mattress has a. So the first time we see the Grom is in the Portal Stone world, where Celine is like, "Oh, you better kill them. You can only shoot their middle eye," and he does really well at it.
Yes, but that being said, did we see them there? Were they originated there, or did Lanfear bring them there? Because after Rand killed 3, remember, all of a sudden she was like, "Damn, that wasn't enough," and then here comes more.
Right, and she's like, "Oh no, there's another herd of 30."
Yeah,
oh,
did she bring them from there herself, or were they? I mean, because there was really not much of anything live in that world, and Grom would have died if they had nothing to eat. You know what I mean?
Well, and how was she able to control that world, though?
Well, she had extensive experience with portal stones. She obviously she told Rand how to use them. I guess
let me rephrase this. If Rand knew what he knew in book 10, if he was in the portal stones, could he do just as well? Could he just channel all around and stuff?
I would say probably, because he knew by 10 he knew way more about the world of dreams, and they even say Luz Theron knew about all these things. He just didn't use them that much.
Yeah, I wonder. So if Rand was smart when they were in the portal world, if he could have just traveled to Falma.
Yeah, I believe he could have.
And then he would have been there for like 8 months waiting for everyone to show up because of the time.
That being said, if Rand would have known everything, he would have just traveled there anyway in the first place.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So he would go back in time. If you go into a portal world, you travel to the portal stone in Falma, you instantly portal back. You have you've only taken like 10 minutes. You're going back in time, right?
Well, that being said, now that's very interesting. You're saying that because we're talking about Aginor. Now we also have evidence that a lot of scientists use those vacuoles as places for experiments. So is this the place where Aginor was caught doing his first experiment? Was he in a vacuole to try to hide from everybody, torturing humans and making these things? I believe that's, we have to take some of the source material, and I think that we can think that that's exactly what he was doing. Because he was a scientist, because, they say all those things, I think that might be exactly what he was doing.
Oh, interesting. So he was hiding out. So to that point, then the Grom could have theoretically, could they exist in the portal? No, they don't, because all life was dead there. It was suddenly Selene was there, and then the Grom was there.
And remember, it was also a place that might be. It was a place that might have been if the shadow would have won.
Yeah,
that was so it was very gray. It wasn't as solid. It didn't have the solidity that other realms would have had that did happen, or that were parallel to the world. This one might have happened, and it did. So
I think Arengar is an interesting, very interesting first introduction to the Forsaken. He's scary as heck.
Well, you mean Asengar?
I'm sorry. I meant who we're talking about here. Aginor is what I meant. Not Arengar. Aginor. Aginor is the first. He's scary. He is
scary, and he's a lot more than people believe he is. I think. Without him, let's just put it this way: without Aginor, the Shadow would have never had these armies.
Absolutely,
and been taken out fairly quickly by the 100 Companions and all the other and the Forces of Light. If it wasn't for Aginor, this entire conflict could have been finished literally ages ago. But,
that is a good point. He did supply the Dark One with its martial forces,
and his imprint lasted longer than most of any of the other Forsaken, because the Trolloc Wars, so many things happened because of Aginor. That his credit, that I do think that the Dark One should have had him at a higher position. The Dark One, he is the father of lies, but he is known to reward some of his followers, especially his high followers. Like, he rewarded Demon Dread, he rewarded Moradin, he even rewarded Mogadin in the end. So I always think that, this is why he's the father of lies. This is why he's the Dark One. The guy that basically gave him more than any of the other Forsaken had a very, very small part in the Dark Lord's empire. He wasn't thought of or respected much by his peers. And he gave the Dark One the means to fight for millennia.
He essentially is like the Bill Gates. That's like, it's like, look at this nerd, but he was really good at computers. But now that we're in the third age, there ain't no more computers. Yeah. So you're just a nerd. Yep. To a certain degree, let's pretend that those implements that he's missing are computer chips and silicon and hard drives and all that stuff. If we equate it like that, he's a guy who was really powerful in Silicon Valley, but here in this third age, if you can't throw balefire around, then what are you even doing here?
Yeah.
Why even a Forsaken? So I like this point. I like talking about Aginor, and we could probably talk a little bit more, but I know that you are just starting your busy.
Yeah, I've got a long night ahead of me.
Ryan had to split. We love him.
Love you,
guys, thank you again for joining us as always. Thank you for adapting your schedule. Thank you for acknowledging our fundraiser for Dana Lou. We will do an official show a week from this Tuesday on the 14th, where we will play some games and try to encourage some more donations, because it's important. And this is what we do. If you've known us at all, this is what we do. We're here to help. Always and ever.
And
Next week we will talk. I'm not sure which Forsakens we will talk about, if it's going to be one or two, but we are going back into our Forsaken talk next week, correct, Jansen?
Forsaken series next week, and we are going to be talking about Grindel.
Oh, hoo-hoo.
One of my
might
favorites.
try to get a guest.
One of my favorites. And if you guys, you fans out there, are lucky, really, 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 really lucky, you might see me in a beautiful straight gown.
What? What? Me too. Then I'm going to dress up for the part too. Jansen, I appreciate the open door that you just put down. All right, everyone. I love you and I'm proud of you. As
Love you
always,
guys.
be good humans and run for your lives.